So, well, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and be on this show with us. I know that, your time is very valuable and there's so much going on. So thank you for just taking time to come and talk with us today. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all.
So how has your day been going, first of all?
It's been busy today. We're in the middle of Wednesdays are real busy for me. Kind of on purpose, because I try not to have something on every single weekday. I try to push it closer to the middle of the week. When it comes to events or interviews or even phone calls, I try to have my Mondays and my Fridays as best as I can free of those, so that I can focus on getting, catching up and getting things really shipped out.
Yeah. So I got your book, and let's rewind so that I can make sure that I introduce you to everyone. So everyone, This is Arlan Hamilton. She is the founder and managing partner of Backstage Capital. Backstage Capital is an investment fund that funds underrepresented, and I'm going to have her explain that word, that phrase that was coined, underrepresented founders, and African American founders, LGBTQ founders, and women of color. And you guys have already, which is amazing, in the few years that you have been established, funded over 100 companies in our area. And I love everything about you, because you are like us. I feel like everything about your upbringing, about your story, I've been to, tech events, and of course you mentioned Marlon Nichols in your book. I've interviewed Marlon Nichols from Cross Culture Ventures, and there's just not a lot of VCs who are willing to take a chance on African Americans, on women in the industry. So I just think it is great that you did get a calling to do that, and that you are doing it, and you're doing it without a care, without a doubt, without what no one says. You're just doing it because it's needed, So I definitely appreciate you for even taking a step into the shoes of what you were called to do,
Thank you. I appreciate that. And everything that you said is right. I also don't need to be convinced that Black people can do well. So it's an honor for me to be able to invest in these companies. And it should be an honor for most people.
So if you want to, for anyone who is on the live and they maybe don't know about how you got started, and I have your book here, and because I'm in the beginning of it still, but even just the first 2 chapters that I've been able to dive into, it's so useful, just because even just knowing you were 34 and you were still homeless, it's I used to always beat myself down, oh my God, I'm about to be 30 and I don't have it together. But it's it's okay,
It is okay. And deeper in the book, I talk about not comparing your chapter 10 to someone else's chapter 2 or vice versa. Not something I made up, but it's something that I live by. And thankfully, I wasn't so worried at 30. 30 was never a scary number for me. But, you get to be a certain age. I remember being so upset, because I was like, man, I'm back with my mom, and I'm back. I don't have any money or prospects of money. And is this going to be how it always is? And I know there's more. I just, felt that deep inside. I felt like there's supposed to be more. I always felt that way. So, yeah, I don't think there's any time that you can fully give up. As long as you're still here, you can fully give up. So my story, real briefly, is my name is Arlan, for those who don't know. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, with my mom and my brother. And then I moved to California, and I bounced around the U.S. And I had a few things going. I mean, I did have a really, really interesting career, and I worked in live music at one point for major artists like Toni Braxton and Jason Derulo. But I could never quite get the money right, and I could never quite get head above water. So I was always just kind of scraping by, always had debt, bad credit, all of that. But I was always along the way, just kind of meeting people and making sure that I added value, and then I stayed myself, and then I could just kind of kept going towards something bigger than me. And eventually, around my early 30s, like right after I turned 30, I started learning more about tech startups and startups in general. And I realized, I was like, I'm a founder. That's what I am. Like, I just didn't know what to call it or what it was exactly. Figured that out. Things started changing. Now, it took years for it to become something lucrative, but my mindset changed and my outlook changed. And so I was going to start a company, and then I did some research to start the company. And when I researched, I realized, I found out that 90% plus of venture capital goes to straight white men in the United States. And I'm a gay Black woman. So I was like, okay, those are some bad odds. Like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
And for like, what about all these people I know, like, who are incredible? They just don't get a chance, like the same chance. It doesn't make sense, right? So I just set out on this path, and this became a mission, became a calling to try to help level that. It wasn't by myself by any means. People were working on it before I got there and will continue to. But like, I wanted to do it in a way that was so different, that because I thought, like Tupac says, the old way wasn't working, right? Like, I thought this other way is not working. So I need to do something different. If I'm going to do something at all, I need to do it differently. Because why would I want to go into venture capital and just become like every other venture capitalist? That's not fun. That doesn't make any sense. So I kind of made my way in.
Yeah. I know that when a lot of like VCs, and I've even heard you, say this, when you're looking for people or businesses and founders to invest in, you're looking for people who are creating disruptive brands and companies that are being disruptive. So for anyone who's like, well, how do I know if my company is disrupting something? Like, what are maybe 3 qualities about a disruptive brand when you're like, okay, this is the one that's going to change something?
Yeah, and don't think of it like as in terms of, what do I need to do in order to make the investor like me? I mean, your points earlier, I was watching your points earlier were on point, because you want to think about like being clear. You want to get across whatever it is you have to say to another person, and that is always true. My take on it is, don't do everything by the book, because again, it always doesn't really work. When you want to disrupt, think about the people who are white men who have disrupted, who've come in. You think about Elon Musk and Steve Jobs and even Zuckerberg. Mm-hmm. When they first started out, like what they became after they got rich is something different. It's something different, right? But what they started out as were people who saw the world differently and were not afraid to race towards that goal of it being different, and race towards the future. Like, they could see what the future could look like, and they were not afraid to race towards it. That is the type of founder that I look for. So I'm not looking for a founder who says, well, I'm supposed to be disruptive, so I am going to be, calculated disruptive. I'm looking for someone, and one of the things is someone who just, they can't help themselves but to look at things differently. They can't help themselves but to be so authentic in that difference. When you go to a conference, or you go to whatever class or anything, and you see just groups of people who all raise their hand at the same time, and they all would agree to this thing, they're going to probably be good. Like, if they're getting their MBA or something, they're probably going to be good venture capitalists, sure. Or they're going to be good operators, good CEOs, great. But disruptive kind of literally means that. It means, like, I was kicked out of class in school over and over and over for asking questions, being disruptive. Now I get paid to be disruptive. I get paid to be disruptive. And it is in just being so convicted in what you want to do and what the industry is. So don't go out there and just kind of create something for the sake of creating it. You can do that you can do that anytime. I was going to say when you're young, anytime you can do that for experience. But if it's that thing that's going to take you somewhere, it's got to be something that you recognize the pain point, you understand it in a way that a lot of people don't, and then you can broadcast what you feel the future of that looks like.
Yeah. I want people to kind of get an understanding. If you could, because I know you said Mondays, Tuesdays, you like to kind of keep them clear. So let's go to like last week. How many pitches would you say you have received in the past week?
In the past week, I mean, at least 200. At least. So that means 200 in a week. Think about this, 50 weeks. What's that, 10,000 a year?
It's a lot of pitches.
And that's not exaggerating. I get thousands of messages. And we do have a really great deal flow. I have to say that. Our deal flow, like, because people know about us, we get a lot. So I don't know if that's the same for everybody, but we get a lot. But, you know, the thing is now that people will pitch me anywhere about anything every day. I'm pitched every single day of my life, no matter what I'm doing. I'm pitched by friends. I'm pitched by family. I'm pitched by strangers. I'm pitched by people dropping food off. I'm pitched every second of every day.
I can imagine. And so what's making, because I mean, somehow my pitch got through. So what are the unique things of the pitch, of those 200, of someone who's like, okay, I have this. What's making you continue to read that email and actually go through their pitch deck?
Sometimes it's just me being open-minded and not necessarily getting it at first, but just wanting to be curious so I don't miss anything. Because sometimes the best companies and founders are kind of buried in a bad pitch. So sometimes it's just, I have that moment, I can take a look at it, but you really want to cut to the chase, like you said, and you want to be clear. So it's about like clarity wins out every time. Brevity and clarity. So you have a short message I don't have to scroll down to look at. You have 80% more chance of me even just physically being able to read it because of the time constraints. I'm going from this to 4 other live events today. And I also launched a syndicate, like a worldwide syndicate today or yesterday. I'm forming a new fund, have a book out. You know, like you want to catch me with the first sentence or with the title. And then you want to catch me with like, don't just say like, hey, what's up? Some people, this Instagram, hey, what you doing? You know, like what's going on? How you are? You know, like what? Like can we? Yeah. Can you tell me what you need? But then there's other people who come out with the Gettysburg Address, you know, and they just tell me their life story, and I don't know what the ask is. And if I don't know what the ask is, I can't help you. I can't even go to the next step. So it's the people who don't make me scroll, but who can tell me, articulate in one way, like how they're getting across. And let me just say this. You do not have to be, I'm not over here trying to score you on grammar or score you on jargon that you know or don't know. That's not what I'm saying. We have some of our most successful founders, will have a Southern accent, like I'm from Texas and Mississippi. So, you know, I have a Southern accent or not know what this term means or this and that. I'm not looking for that. But you have to be able to at least get across to me what you're saying, like what the ask is. What's the ask? And then if you're talking about something that is reasonable, like everybody has an idea and everybody thinks that their company can beat Facebook, but please don't write to me and say this is the next Facebook. Because everybody thinks that. Of course you think that, but don't say, you know, have that sort of reasonable expectation of what the next 2-3 years look like and tell me what you're doing today. And then if you have any traction, you are going to jump in front and the head of the line. Because traction, you don't have to have traction. You don't have to have money to have traction. So many people reach out and they're like, I need $500,000. And I'm like, okay, what have you done? Like, and they're like, well, I did this. I'm like, well, you have like five customers when you really could have like 1,000 at this point. Because I'm looking at all the pieces. Why don't you have 100? Why don't you have 200? Well, I haven't had an investor yet. So what? Like, what kind of time from the time that you decided to do this to now, what have you been doing? You've been putting a deck together? Come on. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you can't come to me because I am real, because you say you relate to me. You also are talking to somebody who slept on the floor of the San Francisco airport while raising a venture capital fund. So you can't tell me that because you don't have any money, you can't move forward in your company. Yeah. You got to be able to do something, or it's not really the right company for you.
saying? Like
there's more, but that's
yes.
what I found.
Yeah, you know, it's like just come to me with like if get this done essentially. One thing I heard you say that when, you know, there's a monetary number, right? So it's like, I need this specific amount of money. How many times do people come to you not knowing I need this specific amount of money? And is that important for you?
Yeah, so I hope you can hear me because my Wi-Fi is messing up and you were frozen for a little bit. But I heard the question about money. Yeah, so I hope you can hear me. So you said how many times do people come to me and they don't know their numbers?
Yeah.
Too often. It happens too often. And I say every chance I get, I say, please know your numbers. Like, again, you don't have to know, your numbers don't have to be huge. You're not trying to impress me necessarily with your numbers, but you need to impress me by knowing your numbers and then knowing why you have those numbers. Yeah. And it's easier than you might think. You don't have to have a degree or MBA or a degree in accounting or anything like that. You just have to know like your unit economics. Like, it costs me this much to make this thing. It costs me this much to acquire a customer because of marketing and because of my overhead. And then the difference of that is this and that and the other. And I can put together what profit is. It is like kind of 101 stuff like that I just want to know. I don't need to know like all kinds of crazy formulas and all of that. I just need to know the 101 to understand you're doing this right now. If you had more resources, you would be able to do this because this makes sense.
Yeah.
That's really what you're breaking it down to. But so many people come to it and they say, I want to raise between 100,000 and $1 million. Whoa, what, you know what that signals? That signals to me that the 100,000 is what you need, and $900,000 is you going to the most expensive hotels, flying first class, and making becoming a touring artist of conferences.
Yeah,
that's what that means to me. You know what I mean? Oh, I got to set myself, because you start to tell yourself lies like, oh, if I set myself up with an apartment for 18 months, that's business related. If you don't have the revenue to talk about setting yourself up 18 months, you need to feel it. You know what I mean? You need to be in it. You need to know what it is, because when you take money from outside sources, even if you're able to somehow finagle that, you now have a piece of flesh that is out to the world. They own that. They can kick you out of the PO. They'll look into your books. They'll know everything. So you need to have kind of like this higher standard for yourself than anybody else could have for you.
Yeah,
that's how I am able to run as authentically and unapologetically as I do, is because I know what I do. I know what I do, and the things that I over the past 6 years or so have deprived myself of in order to make sure that this works.
Yeah.
So when I do something for myself now that's nice, like I bought my mom a car last week for the first time in my life.
You just bought a car?
Just bought her car last week.
See, and I think that's something interesting too, because I think people don't understand that, like, that when they see like people who are running business, who are doing things, they're not even realizing that they're not even investing the dollars where you think they would be investing. And the fact that you just bought a car and you've been doing this for about 4 years, like, you know, and it just became like something for you to just now buy.
Oh, my money. So I have a book deal. I have just, income just from working, and then I'll like have that and speaking money. But my real money comes from investments returning. Oh, this is like a 20-year situation. I'll be 40 this year, and I'm thinking, when I look at my accounting, I'm saying, okay, what's it going to be like when I'm 50?
Yeah.
I'm not over here making all this money today. That's not what being a CEO or a VC really should be about. But a lot of these venture capitalists make millions of dollars off of fees up front. So that's another reason why they're so cavalier with what they'll invest in, because it doesn't matter, because they can do this for 7 years and nobody will know they're bad. Nobody will know they're not a good picker. So we don't have that kind of thing going over here. I built this from scratch. Every single thing, I pull all of my savings out every month, and I make sure that we stay in business, because I know it'll pay off for me big time. I work with Mark Cuban. I manage some of his wealth. So that doesn't mean I get his wealth, but I get to manage and say where it gets deployed.
Yeah.
He's 60. I think he's 60 now. you know, he spent the last 20 years really enjoying it. But he was 40 when he was started enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like really enjoying it.
Yeah, and I think even right now, and just as, and I don't know if it's just like a generational thing, but everyone, like even some of like my peers, they see a notion of, okay, I want to be retired by 35. I want to da 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 da, and it's just like I feel like we're not even thinking about the fact that what you're doing now, you should be starting to enjoy that later. Like everything that you're doing today is not for now. Like you shouldn't be doing something now because you want to enjoy it in 2 years. Like you should be doing things now because you want to enjoy it when you're 50, or you know, you want to enjoy it later, like, you know. Yeah. So I don't know if that's generational.
Yeah. You know, I have a podcast called Your First Million, and there's an episode with Paul Judge from last year. Paul Judge, Your First Million, my podcast. If one person goes right now, not right this second, but after this, and listens to that episode, I think it'll change everything for your mindset. Because he is a millionaire. He's in the Atlanta tech scene. He's like, he's built a lot of different companies. And now he gets to really, really enjoy it. But he talked about how, like in his 40s now, he's enjoying all the fruits of labor from college on. And now he, not only does he enjoy it, but he enjoys it. So would you rather like work for 5 years in your 20s, get some payoff, and then have nothing from the rest of your life, or have just enough to make ends meet? Or would you rather like work till like that 35 where you want to retire, but just keep working, and yeah, money money makes money for you because of the way you set it up, and for the rest of your life you're taking care of you, you're good, you can do whatever you want, you don't have to answer to anybody. Like I don't have to answer to very many people right now. I had to answer to so many people 5 years ago, it was debilitating. I don't have to answer to very many people. I have to answer to my little nephew Dallas because he's so cute, and my mom because she'll whoop me still. But I don't have to answer to very many people.
Yeah.
You can do that for the rest of your life, and also take care of your people.
Yeah.
And also take care, like that to me is worth it. And it's hard to see that. It's admittedly hard to see that when you're in your 20s or when you're a teenager. It doesn't make as much sense. And I don't think it's supposed to. You got to go through those things yourself and kind of figure that out. But believe me, you're just getting started at like in your 40s. Yeah. You're just getting started on like the actual fun of it.
Yeah. 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 And we're gonna wrap up because of course this is Instagram Live, and I know that it's IG. They're gonna cut us off soon. But what I do want to do before you head out, because I've already feel like I've learned so much from Arlan's book, I personally want to give someone who's on this live with a copy of this book. So all you have to do is honestly send me a DM, and I'm just going to go through and pick someone, and I'm going to go ahead and purchase one of her books for you guys. Because I just think it's really important, especially if you're African American, if you're anything, if you're trying to get into investing, you just want to learn, you want to just develop yourself. I think you need to read this book, because even just the first 10 pages make you be like, it's okay. Like, I got this, so I want to give that to somebody. But before we log off, I just want you to just give words of inspiration to any Black entrepreneurs who are in here watching, any entrepreneurs of color, any LGBTQ, just any entrepreneurs in general, of why it's okay to keep going, even when no one believes in you.
You asked earlier about the underrepresented. Underrepresented just means, it's very factual. It just means in a group of 100, if there's supposed to be 15 people there, but there are only 7, that those 7 are underrepresented. That group is underrepresented. They need 8 more to make up the right amount. So it's just a factual thing about it. We are underrepresented as gay people, as Black people, as women in tech and in startups. You are just factually underrepresented. The word that you need to pay attention to is underestimated. Because when think about being underestimated, that's part of my title of my book, is It's About Damn Time, how to turn being underestimated into your greatest advantage. If you restructure, don't even worry about someone else restructuring and thinking about changing the way they think of you. You change the way you think of you. I'm not just underrepresented, that's factual, okay, but I'm underestimated. So watch me. And then things really start to change.
Yeah. Dope. watch me. No. So everyone, I want you, if you're listening, just say out loud, watch me. So Arlan, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to let you go. And everyone else, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And remember, this is Knowledge is Key. We do this every week, Wednesday on IG Live. And thank you guys for taking time to come be with both of us today. We'll see you later, Arlan.